The main thing that we're going to focus on here is going to be the estimate customer approvals workflow and how getting somebody that digital estimate, having it come back, being able to share pictures, getting those real-time approvals and rejections, how that's going to speed up the workflow, and then how we are tying in our new notifications engine and how the new messenger engine plugs into that to be able to communicate work faster. And then we'll also go through the new advanced data analyzer module, the ADA dashboards, and how that helps you understand what technician efficiency is. I'm Chris Hine, Senior Product Manager here at Veryon, and today this is what we're going to be touching on. So we're going to go through, do a deep dive on the whole flow of customer approvals, basically show you how to build that quote quickly, add pictures, send the link, get those approvals, and then additional findings, the dashboards, and then notifications. So why did we build this? Why did we build these few things that we're going to talk about today? Really, the one that we heard over and over and over again on, oh, there's the Q&A. Thank you, Christine. You guys should have seen that polls and quizzes pop up. All right, so one of the things that we heard over and over again really was around the approval process. In terms of the way that, formerly EBIS, now WorkCenter functioned was you can go, you can generate the estimates. It was great in the sense that it could do all those calculations, make a lot of that process much smoother. But where that disconnect happened was it would generate a PDF, and then you've got to send it off to somebody. They've got to approve it. And maybe you get that approval in email, or maybe you use DocuSign, and maybe you use, just somebody prints it out, scans it, and sends it back to you. And so this slower approval process was actually stalling work. You'd have to wait for those customers to go approve it before you can go continue on to the next thing. And so that would mean, I leave, this aircraft is sitting for a day, we haven't gotten approval for the parts, and we're just kind of waiting, we'll go work on something else. But it stalls work and it slowly eats away at your time, right? So this is one area where we saw consistently we could solve that problem. Another that we consistently hear is around technician efficiency and really understanding how much labor are we writing off on a consistent basis, right? It's pretty difficult to understand, here's what my techs are working, here's how long they were clocked in, and then here's how much time they actually applied to work that we were able to bill to the customer versus just being at work, right? And there's a lot of hidden costs that go along with having to write off that labor. And so we wanted to surface that, and that's what we'll cover with the dashboards that we go through. And then also too, in here, one of the things that we noticed is customers, when they're in the workflows, they can get a lot of the information they need. They could get notified, but if you're out of the workflows, it was sometimes difficult to know this event happened, right? And so that's where the new notification engine comes into play, and we'll touch on that as well. But we wanted to build this so more of the team knows what's going on throughout the entire process. The messenger module will come into there as well. So let me go to the next slide. So what we'll cover in this one is the real-time customer approvals, the dashboards, and the notifications. So with the real-time customer approvals, customers can gain access from any device. So if I build an estimate, a customer can go in, they can see on their phone, an iPad, a computer, what they are actually agreeing to. They can see pictures and they can approve that and send it back real time. It also creates an internal staging area. So that way a technician can report something. You can have a lead tech review it. You can have a customer service representative or whoever that customer liaison is, do the final review, make the adjustments, and then send that off. And what we noticed through this process is there was a lot of shadow systems happening, right? Somebody would write something down, then bring it to somebody. They put it in a spreadsheet. They would review it. Then they put it in the quote. What this does, and I'll show it to you with the iPad as well, it allows you to have a completely digital flow from the technician inside the shop to the customer back to the technician and just reduce those admin bottlenecks as well. And then we'll show you how you can use the dashboards to understand what techs are working on and how many are billable. And then again, on the notifications, just centralize the communication across that maintenance event. So let's focus for now on the customer approvals, and I'll go ahead and I'll do a demo. But the two main areas we wanted to focus on with this first version, right? Because we'll keep improving this over time. And I've already gotten feedback from, I think, about 15 customers. Has been extremely useful. So it's helping us understand how we want to build this moving forward. But these were the two primary areas we wanted to start with, is the initial approval and then the additional findings approvals. These are the two biggest friction points. So on the initial approval, we wanted to make it easy where when you build that quote, you've got your labor kits built, you have your billing profiles, it'll automatically generate those charges, all of that. We wanted that to be really easy, but then you could send that as a link to the customer. They can approve, they can reject, they can ask questions, and they can submit it back to you. And you've got that initial approval. That's great. This is definitely something we wanted to get right from the jump because it's important. And it's a good modern experience. But really where I think the main value comes in, or even more value that compounds, is on the additional findings, because this will happen multiple times as you go back and forth. So that aircraft is going to come in, and then the technicians will start going through and do the preliminary inspection. And we wanted to build this in a way where you didn't have to, if you don't want to, didn't have to go through the entire preliminary inspection. Maybe that's 2, 3, 4 days. We didn't want you to have to wait because you were going to generate a PDF at the end and then send that off in one shot. You wait a day, you wait 2 days, and then you could start working on it. We wanted to build it in a way where you could do this as you go. So day one, somebody comes in, the technicians go through, they start adding the additional findings. That same day, end of day, you could take those pictures, you could take those items, send them to the customer for the approval. They approve, reject items. And then day two, while they're still going through the findings, you can have the next set of technicians come in and start chipping away at the things that were found on day one. The idea is to truncate as much of this overall process as possible so you can get more aircraft through the shop in less time. So let's jump over to EBIS, to the work center side of this, and let's just go ahead and we will build a work order and we'll send one of these out. All right, so let's just set the date, say jet, and we'll go ahead and create this work order here. I think most of you on the call know this, but for those of you that don't, we have something inside the system that's called a labor kit. And you could think of this as a work order template, or you could do multiple labor kits in a work order. But essentially, I'll go through here. I'm going to add that in. And this is going to pre-populate a handful of items for me. Great. So now I've got this in here. I've got my 4 items. You can see what they are. I've got my estimated hours over here off the screen. And for the sake of this demo, I'll go ahead and I'll add some media in. So let me get this screenshot here. Now, one of the things that you could do with this too is you can add pictures to these estimates, right? So if I come in, I can hit this eyeball, so now it's visible, and I'm going to come to this customer approval section. Now, as we go through this, I want you to think of this like a staging area, right? Like I said, the technicians or whoever's building this initial quote, you can add the items in and you'll see they're internal new. So I can set these, I'll come in, I'll say from internal new, that's internal ready to send. And now this makes these able to be sent to the customer. So if I hit preview and send, It's going to take a look at who the customer is. It's going to take a look at the email address, and this will actually send a one-time passcode out to your customer, right? So whoever clicks the link that will generate here, this email address will get that 6-digit password so they can access the estimate and start approving and rejecting items. It's going to do a validation here just to make sure that you didn't miss anything, kind of like what you're used to on the PDF side. And then here I can see my items, I can see the totals, I can see my subtotals down here, and my terms and conditions. So I'll go ahead and I'll create this estimate here. This is going to generate our first link. So if I want to send this to a customer, right now for this version, we chose to not have it automatically send out. But what you could do is you can click this and it's going to copy that link to your clipboard. And when you come in here, let's just go ahead and open this. But you could email that out. You could text that to your customers. Whatever your relationship is with them, you can send that out. Now, one of the things that you're not going to see on this demo environment, just because I am currently logged in as a user, is that if I was a customer, I'd actually get a pop-up that says, hey, that email address, request a one-time code. I'd get that code in my email. I could plug that in, and then I could access this. So now in here, when you come in, you can see the items that you're working with. You can see the totals. You can review those pictures here. So if you want to add multiple pictures, you can. And then you can approve, you can reject items. You can even come in and bulk approve these items. And now I can see my estimate totals. If I wanted to request a minimum deposit, I can do that in the configured billing. And now I can click this and approve. So one of the things you'll see, this doesn't do it until somebody submits. So if I come back in here, you'll see that this is sent for approval. And now if I come in and I decide to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to approve this, click this. And now when I come back in, let me just refresh this. Got the e-sign date, and this moved to customer approved. And if we go back into these items themselves, let's just refresh this one. Now you can see that the owner authorization has been switched to yes. The start stop timer is now available for technicians to go in and work on this. And my outstanding parts screen, the parts team can go ahead and start ordering these parts. So this whole flow that used to be come in, generate an estimate PDF, send it out to somebody, that comes back in, and then I would go in and update all of these individual items. That process is now taken care of automatically. So now let me go to what we talked about in the additional findings section, right? So let me just log in here real quick to my iPad that I've got off camera here. Hard to see it, but all right. So we're in work order 380, 14380. Search this real quick. All right, so now as a technician, I could take my iPad and let's say I'm out at the aircraft and I go add new finding here. Let's save. On here, I'm also going to take a picture, right? I'll add in a picture. So this is all happening digitally. It's off the screen, so you're not going to be able to see this yet. But now that I've added that in, and since the workflow is all electronic, this is the one that I just added. So I've got the new finding. I have the media here. I just took this picture off to the side, and let's say I want to show this, right? This is a new item. And then if I come to the customer approvals tab, you'll see I've got these customer approved, and then I now have internal new. And so this comes back to that concept of the staging area that we talked about, right? And this is what a lot of customers were looking for. They didn't want the technicians to be able to add things and it goes right to the customer. They also didn't want technicians to add things and it be unable to edit or delete from the work order. So this allows me now as a lead technician or customer service manager to clean up verbiage. I can now estimate how many hours this will be. So it'll build that quote. And then I could add notes here and say I want to show this. And now this is internal and ready to send. So I could go back through that process with the additional findings. Same thing, validation. And here it's going to take a look and show me what is my partial estimate here, my terms and conditions. I'll create this, and then it generates me another link that I could send off to the customer. So now when I open this up, we did this for a few reasons, right? This customer estimate now is going to show me right now just the partial estimate with the item that I have. You'll see this partial estimate at 12.5 or 12.50. But now if I am a customer and I want to see the previous history, I can click on the previous history. I can see what I approved, what those totals were, and now I can see the entirety of the estimate. Cool guitars, thanks. Um, and so I can show hide this, I can review this. Here's a better look at the guitars if you want them. And now I can approve this. I check the box, click approve, and this comes back into the system, now marked as approved. And if I want to go work this item, again, now this is ready to start. So I just went through quite a bit, and I'll go back through the chat here in a second. But that's the idea behind the flow of what we wanted to accomplish with version 1. And what I just showed you on new additional findings, you could do that 3 times, you could do that 5, you could do that 10 times. This is going to capture all of that traceability through the process. It can all be done electronically. So if you're going to give your technicians laptops or iPads, they can type this stuff in. Somebody can review it, clean it up, and then send that off to the customer. And the idea here is to shave out all of that extra time and have those values flow in. And there's a couple of things around this too that I've gotten questions on, like, what if somebody makes a mistake? You can go back and fix it. You change it on the line item. You could change it on the customer approval side. You have the ability to go back and make adjustments as needed, but this speeds up the approvals process. So let me go through some of these questions here real quick before we move on. Can a labor kit also automatically add OSR, or is it just items? Yeah, I believe you can add OSR, Hannah, on labor kit items. Tom, can you show the video media? Currently doesn't have video media for the estimate. We'll get around to that probably in a version 2 or version 3. Vanessa, who's on the call, actually found a workaround on how you can get it in there, but it's kind of an unofficial way to do it. So officially, you can't add video on there just yet. All right, Emily Johnson, just items from what I have found. Okay, you might be right. I'll have to look into the OSR. I'll get back to you, Hannah, and probably to you too, Emily. All right. Sean, how do you separate out those parts of the quote that are covered by a warranty provider, as not all content is chargeable to the customer? So, Sean, on that, within each of the line items, you do have the ability to select warranty vendor. And so when you select the warranty vendor and you hit save, when you send this estimate out, the customers will still be able to see that line item, but it will be set at a $0 amount. So they have visibility into it. If you want to attach pictures, right now in this version, they could approve or reject those technically, but we may change that in future versions. But yeah, they'll see it as a 0, so they know what's being worked on, and then you have a separate piece inside of EBIS where you can generate a warranty invoice, and then you'd send that off to the vendor. Hannah, yep, history of links generated, and then also in the edit history, you do have the ability to see when it was submitted, the timestamps, all of that. Okay, Emily, your test runs a request code. All right, yeah, shoot me an email after this, and we'll. And Connor, same. Interesting. All right, yeah, shoot me an email after this. We'll troubleshoot it. Travis, does changing the labor estimate hours move an item back into internal status? No, not currently. And what happens when you move items around a work order? Does it mess up the approval because the number changed? I don't believe so. It's going to keep that same work order approval status. Um, yeah, I don't think that should be an issue there. Tony, once the customer has the link to the work order, does it stay active through the edits? Yes, and actually, so the way we have it broken down is this comes out in separate links right now. So you'd have the first link, you'd have the second link. The links are going to be active, but as soon as somebody hits approve or reject, it's going to close that line item out. Like you saw, you'll see those previous items in future links that go out. Um, but as soon as they're approved, rejected, and you hit submit, those are essentially locked. You can have an admin from the EBIS side or the work center side unlock that if you'd like. Um, but yeah, that's the main gist of how it goes. No email to the work order link. Interesting. No, you can't disable the code process now. Also, too, if you guys can, when you send me over those emails, let me know where it's not generating. I have a feeling that it may be something related to the workflow, but I'll confirm it. It may just be something that I need to explain how that flow works ultimately. So while we're here too, a couple other aspects of this that I do want to show you are the messenger. Sorry, it's kind of blocked from here. So a couple of other things in this flow that you can start to use. So right, one aspect that we're fixing here, sorry if you can hear them mowing my lawn right in front of my window. One of the things that you can do here is shrink that communication time between the shop and the customer. But the other two aspects of this release that recently went out are the messenger and then also the notifications that came in. And this is all designed to now, instead of just improving the shop to customer communication, improve the internal shop communication. So one aspect here is this new messenger feature where you can send one-to-one messages. You can send group messages as well. And that user will get a notification. It'll show up in their messages window. I can't tell if this is actually blocking you guys from being able to see it, but there's a messenger icon in here. Connor, it's most likely a me thing. It could be. I have a lot of me things, so I understand. So this allows you to send one-to-one and group messages. And so the way that we're starting to see people use this are for instances where you need approval or you want to let somebody know, hey, take a look at this on this. Sorry, guys. Like I want to get approval on this. Here's the link to the work order I need you to check out. Here's a message. We're also seeing on the messages, we're seeing turnover logs and things like that. So, hey, end of the day, where did you leave off? I'm going to put it in there. Another aspect about this too that I want to show you is on the notifications. So I was able to set up a notification that, fair enough, Tony. I was able to set up a notification that when I got that customer approval and that came back in, I got this in-system notification and I also got an email that came to me. So the way that you can set that up and you guys can find it is either under my account. You can go to notification events and you could set these up. So there's a few that are in here. This one is basically a customer submitted this estimate. So it'll give me an in-app notification, an email, and it'll include quotes. And now I can customize how this email or this notification comes to me. So give me the tail number, give me the customer, and then it'll show me the list of items that either needs review, the list of items rejected, and then if you want the list of items approved. You can customize this however you like. But what this does is I can send that message off, that link off to the customer. I could get the approvals. I now get an email notification that this happened. I get an in-app notification. So now I can go back in and check this out. This is part of that communication um, that I was talking about to streamline between the shop to the customer and back, and then get the work flowing in there. All right, Travis, in notification events, I can't divide it by location. All cities is the only one that works. Okay. Shoot me an email after this. We can take a look. Future item for consideration, having the customer to be able to schedule work and upload pictures into a work order from the link. Tony, fortunately, you and I are on the same page on where this future state should go. So, like I said, I've met with a decent number of customers, and Tony, feel free to email me. We could always set up a call to walk through some things that you'd like to see in the future states. But like I said, I've had a decent number of calls with customers so far who have come back with some pretty great ideas on how we can improve this, like required items, things for airworthiness, being able to defer items, having some of these statuses, being able to upload pictures, all this kind of stuff. So I'm taking this feedback in now. We just released this about a month ago. And so, yeah, please share whatever you have. We're starting to build out the next phase of the things that we want to do with this. So please get that feedback in when you can. All right, so that is really the high level walkthrough of the portal, the problems that we're solving, or sorry, the customer approvals, the problems that we're solving, and then some of the new notification engine that you can do. I guess one thing I'll show you too on the notification side, it's not just on the portal too. You've got the ability to set this up for other events that happen. And so this can be, a purchase order is created, somebody requested a part, somebody fulfilled a part, and now the person that requested that part wants to get notified. There's quite a bit that you can get alerted on now, and you just have to go into your username, go to my account, notification events, and then you can set these up. It's been very useful to get those notifications outside the system. You click the link and you go straight to that portion of the system. It's been very helpful. All right, moving on to the next piece, and this is kind of the last thing that I'm really going to show you. This will be around what is now called the ADA dashboard, and you can just click it here in the top left of your page. It's the first module there. If you guys don't see access to this, email support. I think it's still support@datcomedia.com. Shoot an email over to support, and we can turn this on for you. But essentially what we built here is a series of dashboards to bubble up data to you as a manager, as the owner of the shop. We wanted to make it where you can start to get visibility and then drill into that data. One of the things, and I think Travis is still on the call, but Travis was very helpful in helping us build this, was the technician efficiency dashboard. This is one of 4 that we have available around item overruns, purchase order, overviews, and then over-the-counter revenue. But let's focus on technician efficiency. And really where this came from was we had quite a few customers that are using the system to have technicians clock in for the day, right? So I clocked in for the day, I clocked out for the day. That's what we call our time clock. And we also have a lot of customers where technicians will clock into the jobs themselves, that little green timer that you saw, right? And so we also have customers that are using shop work orders, right, to account for time that they're working but is not billable to customers. And essentially what we kept having was customers would come back to us and say, hey, we love that your system can generate the efficiency percentage, but we're having a tough time understanding how much of that work we've actually billed to customers. Like out of the 4,300 hours that they were clocked in and out of the 3,800 hours that they were clocked onto a job, how much of that did we actually get to charge somebody for and make money? And this is a really hard thing to understand in a shop. And if you don't have a good grasp on it, you can be bleeding money in ways that you really didn't fully understand and don't have that much line of sight into. And so we built this technician efficiency dashboard where if you start having techs clock into a shop work order, you can start to understand the efficiency percentage versus how much of those work order hours were we able to bill. And with this dashboard, I can now click in and get high level information and even drill in. So if I click this billable percentage, I'm going to start to see a full rundown on a day by day basis of the technicians, when they clocked in, or the efficiency, so the amount that they spent on the time clock versus the work order, your efficiency, which is the comparison, but how much of that was billable versus shop time, right? And so you can start to see the like the billable percentages and these rates and start drilling in and finding out where are we actually making money, who are our most efficient technicians. And so I can even click into these and start to drill in and understand, okay, week over week, Justin, in this case, these were the time clock hours, work order hours. Here's how efficient he was. But when I take a look, only 66% of his time was billable. What was going on there? And now, from a lead technician, a director of maintenance, I can actually understand, okay, where are we leaking? Where do we need to improve? Is this a training issue? Is this somebody hiding out in the shop? Right? And so with these two, I can take this and I can filter down to different users. So let's take a look at Chris Hine. He is a shady character. I do know that. And if you take a look at this, he looks efficient, right? But a lot of his time is not very billable. Now, this could just be for the sake that Chris is a manager or a lead tech, and he's not really working on aircraft directly that often. And more of his job is to do administrative tasks. That could be the case. If that is the case, it's not a big deal. But if this is a direct technician, I'm going to start to be able to see, okay, over this time period, this technician worked this much, this are the billable percentage, what's going on here, and I can drill in. And I do have a couple customers that are now either already started or in the process of creating basically, incentive programs, right? So you've got these incentive programs where over a week to week period, if you hit a certain efficiency and a certain billable percentage, you get an extra $200, $100 for that week, whatever it might be. But they're starting to use this as a way to understand how much time are we actually able to bill and then start to change the behavior in the shop based on what they see here. So that's the primary amount of, those are the primary things that I wanted to show you guys today. So real quick, let's just kind of recap some of this. We had the customer approvals. You could send out these approvals, get the responses, the approve, the reject. Somebody can open it from a phone, from an iPad, so they can do it on the go. And as soon as they submit it, it comes back into Workcenter. You've got those tech efficiency dashboards and some of the others that we covered. So now I can start to see how billable my time is and where do I need to make changes, either on a personal level or on a cultural level, to move my shop towards more profitability, right? And then the notifications, the internal messenger, in addition to, shop the customer and back communications. How do I streamline my in-shop communications as well? And it's all part of what we're calling the Veryon unified experience. Now that EBIS got acquired in October, and now that we've changed to Workcenter, we're kind of plugging into the Veryon ecosystem, if you will. And over the next year, 2 years, you're going to start to see these things get more interconnected with manuals, maintenance tracking, defect analysis across the board. So excited for what that looks like as well. Now I want to open this up for questions. So really what I'm going to do is pretty much just go back through the chat here and see if there's any other questions. Ramiro, Chris, when you're done, could you show that customer submission notification setup. Sure. Yeah. So let me come back in here. The way that you could do that is under your account, you go to My Account, you come to Notification Events, and you can click this plus button in the top right. And so now you can select from the event name, you say Customer Estimate Submission, you click here, you set up EBIS, you set up email. If you're using quotes, I do recommend setting include quotes as well. And one of the nice parts about this notifications engine, which is, I think, pretty cool, is you have this markup language. So you can basically tie in any information from the request and present it to yourself or whoever's going to get the notification in a way that makes sense to you and that gives you the most relevant information. So if the tail number or the, customer, if those two things are the most important thing, submitted, you can have those in the header. So you just do it at a quick glance. I can see what I need. And then in the body, you could do the same thing and then push this out. And, somebody could go in, they could click, they could get the information back that they need. So that's the main setup. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay. Tony, we are currently using brand C for MRO. Work Center is light years ahead of that product. If the next version is even better, you guys will be the premier MRO software in the space. Thank you, and we're going to keep working at it. Okay, Emily, you're using repair orders for all of your overhead timekeeping. Yeah, so one of the things that you may want to consider doing here is creating a shop work order. So in here, you can either create a tail number that says shop or make the work order type shop. And if you do that, anytime somebody goes into that shop work order, you can break down the individual line items to say, billing, moved aircraft, whatever those are. You can have technicians actually clock into that work order, but it's got to have either a tail number of shop or a work order type of shop. And that will start populating that dashboard that we just looked at. Also, one other thing that we put in here too recently, you can now import time clock entries and connect them via your employee ID. So most of these time clock systems like Paylocity or ADP, that's what a lot of shops will use as instead of our time clock feature, they'll use those as a way to have employees clock in and out for the day for lunch. So you can now, in the config data imports, you can import that information and link it up to the employee ID that system generates. You just make sure that lines up here. And even if you're not using our time clock module, you can populate that on a weekly, a monthly basis, and you can still get those analytics in here now. So we wanted to make sure that it was useful for not just the customers using time clock, but customers even using something after. Connor, does that data get pulled off of estimated hours, or is that what's invoiced to the customer? So I believe you're talking about the links here, right? With the estimates. This is going to pull from the estimated hours, and then whatever that value that you've got set in your config and billing, that's where it's going to pull from. And so that link is more focused around the estimate. And then when you actually do the work, the techs are clocking in, you order the parts, you get the correct cost, the markup, you'll still send that out as an invoice from the generated PDF today. We'll move towards that in a future state, but for now, that estimate link is going to be pulling from your estimate values there. Tony, okay, yeah, I'll check on that Power BI connector for you. It's available. Okay, Eric, I think I answered that, but let me just show you what that can look like. So inside of a work order under here in the config and billing, you would just need to set up this work order type as shop, SHOP. You could do that in the config. So you go to config, you go to lists, and I'll go to work order type, and you could just create a new one called shop. And then the ADA dashboard will take it from there. You could create a tail number called shop if you'd like and use that, or you could do this work order type, really whatever works for you. Madeline, does the ADA dashboard take into account override hours? I'm not fully sure what you mean. If you mean like rather than somebody coming in and clocking to a specific item, but if instead they come into service and they manually add themselves and say, I worked 2 hours, and they hit save, then yes, that will also take into account on the ADA dashboard. Yep. Madeline, I hope that answers your question. Sure, Tom, we're going to send a link of this webinar out. So happy to send that your way. Yeah, and that was, okay, thanks, Madeline. All right, I think that's primarily it. We can, actually, we got some pretty good participation on the polls. I'll give you the responses. Feel free to add your feedback in here if you think it's relevant. But all right. So what slows your maintenance work the most? 36% said manual or paper processes. 14% said tech coordination. Parts and tooling visibility was 1. Status tracking was 9%. And documentation and rekeying was 23%. So if anybody wants to throw in the chat there, oh, I think I can share it actually. If anybody wants to chime in there, please feel free to do so. But otherwise, yeah, if you'd like to do a demo of this, and meet with somebody from the sales team, go ahead and scan that QR code. I believe we'll send a booking link out as well in addition to this webinar. But that's primarily what we wanted to cover today. Yeah, I'll hang out here for another minute. If there are any other questions, please throw them in the chat. Otherwise, I will give you guys back the last 13 or 12 minutes of this session. And I really appreciate you guys joining and throwing in some questions. So I'll hang out here for a minute. Hi, Kyle, since you are hanging out, is it possible to toggle off the option for rejection to items classified as airworthy? Can we approve them on the back end and share the estimate through the portal to show the cost while the customer is deciding which recommendation items to accomplish or reject? So for your first question, that's one of the first things I want to tackle in the next phase of this. I've gotten that feedback from almost everybody I've talked to, and so we're just exploring how we want to do that, whether that's through the statuses and having automation or what that way will be. But we wanted to set it up for airworthiness items. It's essentially more of it's pre-approved and you're taking a look at it and you're acknowledging that this is approved. I guess, they can technically reject an airworthy item, but you don't have to generate the logbook for them in that case. Yeah, and then can we approve them on the back end? Yeah, that's probably going to be the method that we do there as well.